Hello and welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to show you how to fit a little LED brake light indicator to tell you when your brake pad is being applied fully. The idea behind this is that if you're like me, you're used to driving along and you like to just tap your brakes and let somebody know behind you that you're slowing down. And if you're in a car, you know, you can do that, and the car slows down really slowly anyway, so they hopefully get an indicator. But the thing is with the Can-Am, even if you don't brake, you can drop the throttle down and it will slow down very quickly. I came up with this idea, and you can copy it, put it in, or get somebody to help you with it. And it's a very simple idea, but the end result, well worth having. There's a little bit of construction required, cutting wires and splicing them together and removing a little bit of panel work and the seat. All of it's not difficult. One thing to notice straight away is that you don't have to have your key in to get the brake light to work. So it's always on, so when you press the pedal, the brake light comes on. I'm just going to reverse the camera now so you can see that. Okay, so down here, when I press the brake pedal, it will actually turn on the rear light. So just in here I've put a little LED, and it's located right here inside the speaker case. And you can see the red and black wires down there. I could move them out of the way if I wanted to be tidy, but it just pokes through one of these little slits in the grid, and then a little blob of glue to hold it in place. Just for the fun of it, I did decide to connect my little LED. You can see it's tiny. If I put my finger beside it, you'll see what it's like. It's got a stick on back, and it's smaller than the end of the middle of my finger. But it's bright and it is red. It might look more white in the thing, but it's actually red. It's just the amount of intensity. And just temporarily plug it in there, and you can see the brake lights are on. And when I turn the brake lights off, that will go away. So if I come around here and just take my load off the brake pedal to switch the brake switch off, and you'll see everything's gone off again. And so I know it's there. I've also taken the side panel off here now, and I'm tracing this wire back down here. It goes underneath here, comes down into here, and I think it's coming out onto this central piece here, but so I could possibly tap into it somewhere down under here, but I may just go for tapping at it where I can get to it, which is probably more likely somewhere here, and then feeding this one down and through here, and then running it underneath the seat. I did have to lift the seat off, which if you haven't done it before, it's a bit fiddly to get to, but there are two like clips here that hold it on. You have to reach underneath the seat and press down on those, I think, and then you pull the seat forward and it comes off, and then when you put it on, it clips up the back, and then you just press down and it all goes back on. You do have to disconnect to here from the seat. There's a passenger switch on there, and probably the heat switch for the seat, so that plugs in there. With the lights off, ignition off, I've got no weight on the brake. The hammer's just off there. You can see the lights are off here. I disconnected the plug to the back of the socket here. There you go, the socket for the rear brake light. And it's mainly a case of just pressing down on the little clip on the back of this, and it'll come off, that little connector, pulling up on the back of that, and it will just come off and release and unplug. Quite easy. I pulled the wires down from the mounting up here on the dash, if you like. I've got it in the speaker there, you can just see it sticking out just up there, and I've wired them down here so that they should tuck in nicely around here. I can just cable tie them around that area there, which looks like a connector of some sort. LEDs only work one way around. The positive and the negative have to be the right way around. So if you get them wrong way around, it just doesn't light up. So if you do it and it doesn't light up, it's probably that you've got the two wires here reversed or in one of your other joints. So just do it without them soldered together, before you do the final bit, and then when you do, when you press on the brake pedal like I'm doing down here now, you'll see that the light comes on up there, and there we are. We've got continuity, we've got a nice bright LED. So I'm just going to finish now. I'm going to solder these, put some heat shrink on them and also some tape. I'll talk to you a little bit more about how I support the thin wire against the thicker wire so you don't get a break, a fracture from fatigue. So to protect the wires, I've used a piece of heat shrink sleeving. That's what this stuff is. You can buy it almost anywhere, Harbour Freight, Walmart, in little pieces, in long strips, and whatever you want, but it comes in different sizes, so you get one. It shrinks down quite a lot. This is what it looks like originally, this particular one. And I've soldered these wires deliberately so that they'll stay together like that as a sleeve, rather than coming one end to end, because otherwise you tend to get a break on the thinner one. This way, by sleeving this and pushing it all the way on, you'll take the reinforcing back down there, and the thicker wire will support the thinner wire. The hot air gun is actually the better way to go for safety. But anyway, that's what you get when you do that. And now finally I can press on the brake pedal, and when I press, as soon as the brake pedal gets to the switch limit, it will switch the switch on, and that's before you actually get that last little bit of movement where the brake pads come on. So there is a gap between the two. So if you want to warn, the idea is if you want to warn somebody behind you that you're slowing down without actually putting on a lot of brake, you can just put your foot gently down, and when you see the light up over there on your dash display, you know they're getting the message, and you're slowing down with engine braking. Another great thing you can do with a meter is do what's called continuity testing, which means basically making sure there's continuity between one end of a wire or a fuse or something like that and the other end. And all you've got to do is, as we did before, connect up. I'm using my white crocodile clip connectors. Put one on the red this time again. I've turned the meter on and I've switched it to 200 ohms, which is a funny little symbol down here, if you can see it. I don't know if they put it on this one. Oh yeah, there it is. So if you put it on this one, this is sort of like the coarsest one, and if there's nothing going on, it's got an infinity symbol of 1, which means the two probes aren't touched together. If I take the second probe, if I can find it, got it here somewhere, here we go. If I take the second probe and I touch it to the first probe, you'll see that the number changes. Take it off again, it goes back to an infinity. So when I put it on, if there's continuity, it goes back. Now what I'm doing here is I'm just touching the two probes together, just to make sure I've got continuity between two probes, but I've actually got the green wire here hooked up, and I've connected it to one of the wires, and I've got the white one on the other end of the wire, but as you can see it's reading infinity, so that isn't the right wire. Now when I take it off this one and I move it across to the other one, you'll see that the number changes to a much lower number. Won't read 0 because there's some resistance, and the meters, the cheap meters, they don't always go down to like 0, but it's good enough. So that means I've got the right wire at that end to match this end. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to use a piece of yellow wire on that wire to seal it off, and at this end I'm also going to wrap a piece of yellow wire now on that, so I know that that's the white wire all the way through. Now you can possibly see here that I've wrapped some insulating tape around that joint which I've already soldered, and this one's ready to go. I offset my joints slightly so that there's no chance of them rubbing against each other and wearing through the insulation. It keeps them away from each other. So this, now I've wrapped my extra wire, extension wire, around that, and I'm going to add some solder, and I usually use some resin flux, which helps to protect and helps the solder to flow around the wires and make it really good contact without any electrical resistance. If you do it without, you can get what's called a dry joint, where the heat can build up through the resistance between the solder material and the wires, and you can actually get a hot spot which causes electronics, all sorts of issues. But anyway, we're not worried about that. But as I say, I usually buy a rosin cord solder which has got the solder on inside it, but I still tend to like to dip it into the pot, get a little bit on, or I dip the iron in there to get it hot. Now I'm going one-handed, so I can't really show you the process, but basically you've got to make sure you get your joint hot enough. So dip your solder in the flux, add a little bit of solder, rest it underneath and let the heat rise, and then bring your solder over and melt it onto it. If it melts on and flows around it, you've got a good joint. Don't try and blob it on with the soldering iron, because the metal here will be cold and it won't really stick and give you a good joint. Just a few tips for those who've never done it before. It's not hard, but you just want to get it right.